Hey, and welcome to the PublishPress Podcast. I'm Steve Burge from PublishPress.
And I'm Dan Knaus from Multidots.
So today we're talking with Raquel Manriquez from PressConf. Now, I've talked with quite a few publishers lately who are looking to add events to what they're doing. They've got the audience, they've got often people in a geographic location or people really interested in a particular topic. So it makes sense to add an event for those people. They can sell tickets, they can make money, they can sell sponsorships. So I thought it'd be interesting to talk with Raquel, who has a ton of experience in organizing events. We asked her to tell the story of PressConf, which is her latest project, which is basically a conference specifically for people who do business in WordPress. Dan, you've known Raquel for a long time, and you've also invited her to your conference, right?
Yeah, I actually finally met Raquel, who's really a well-known big personality in the WordPress community. I met her for the first time in person in last year for WordCamp Canada, which was the first ever. And now we're going into our second year. Raquel's coming again. Yeah, she gets around quite a lot. We've gotten to talk a bit more now as event organizers, since this is my first time doing one of this size, really, and first time with a WordCamp. So yeah, it's a good conversation. We picked up some more of those threads here today. PressConf is a very different animal than WordCamp. So there are some interesting differences and similarities, really, with anyone who's trying to pull off a special event in the WordPress space that has a lot of different people involved, a lot of layers to it, a lot of different interests that you got to juggle, and just the logistics of it all. Raquel's a great pro at it, been doing it a long time. So there's a lot to learn from her.
Hey, Raquel, welcome to the PublishPress Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So we are going to try and tell the PressConf story today with a little bit of help from Dan as well, telling the WordCamp Canada story, as you two guys are both organizing big events. But Raquel, PressConf is going to be the main through line of this episode. How did it start? Did you have a conversation with someone? Did you suddenly wake up one morning and have an inspiration? What basically moved PressConf from 0 to 1?
So basically, through the pandemic and the lack of events, and then when events started back up, there was a severe drought. I felt like we still weren't coming out, and it just seemed like everyone got super comfortable in their homes. And I don't fully understand that, because I truly am, by all definitions, an extrovert. And I'm like, we missed each other. And particularly for me, I had an awful pandemic experience, and I just really needed people, and they weren't coming out. And I was started to hear, especially, like, for lack of a better term, big dogs talk about how much they missed Pressnomics and how much they really wanted business at WordCamps and things like that. So meanwhile, local WordCamps are almost dead. Not dead, but almost, especially in North America. And the flagship events seem to be the only ones that we have. And when we're at a flagship event, all the who's who, the big names are like, we want more business. So that's kind of what started it. And I started to get this, like, I think I could bring back Pressnomics. I know Josh and Sally. I think I could bring it back. And so it just kind of stewed and seeded. And then I just watered it a little. And then basically from like August 2023, WordCamp US and DC, it really started to grow those next 6 months. Tried to do an event with Corey Miller. That didn't work out. And then I was in Taipei hiking a mountain with a bunch of WordPressers, and Robert Windish. I say this story a lot. He said CloudFest was the new Pressnomics. And Robert had no idea. Yeah, he had no idea that I was even had that brewing inside of me. And I was like offended. I was like, what? I was so offended. I'm like, no, it is not. And that was really the big, huge catalyst. And then one more push right after getting home from WordCamp Asia in Taipei. I got on a mastermind community call with some other community-focused WordPressers, and the sentiment was we need a Business of WordPress conference, and that was it. I got off the call and I called Josh and Sally Strebel, and I said, I want to bring Pressnomics back, and I think I can bring Pressnomics back. And other people have approached Josh and Sally, and technically GoDaddy does own Pressnomics, so it really wasn't Josh and Sally's to give, but for me, it was their blessing to give. And so that was what really started it, was those steps, and here we are.
So we went from, I think, maybe 200 WordCamps a year across the world down to, I'm guessing, closer to 20 probably. Like the drop before and after COVID was extreme. I seem to remember before COVID, every month there'd be a WordCamp in a different US city that I'd never heard of. There'd be popping up some little town in Maine or some town in Ohio having a WordCamp. And now we've gone down to, I can't tell you the last one I saw, maybe one in New York recently. So there's really a gap there for you to fill. Montclair, yeah.
New Jersey.
I mean, we used to have like 3 or 4 in Florida each year alone.
Mm.
And now
Miami
we barely have
is
3 or 4 in the whole United States.
Yep.
So, Raquel, have you ever done an event of this size before?
Yeah. I've actually long been a WordCamp Phoenix organizer and a WordCamp US organizer. So I've organized for Phoenix from 2015 to our last WordCamp Phoenix was 2024. And then I did 2017, 18, 19 for US. And Phoenix has been known to be a big one. We've had 750 attendees. And then even our 2023 post-pandemic was 400 attendees, which is, to me, I mean, that's like ginormous for a local, like a truly local camp, especially post-pandemic. And our 2024 was like 200, which for us, that was like a slap in the face. And that was actually also why I think PressConf happened, is because that 2024 edition was really not fun at all. And it was the first time we had an awful experience. And that's a whole other podcast.
Is it a whole different kettle of fish, a whole different experience when it's you? When you're organizing WordCamp US, there's a whole team. You're organizing a WordCamp in Phoenix, there's a whole team. PressConf is you as the boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk us through that? Okay.
Nope.
More stressful?
No team at all?
Oh, no, I do have a team. I have a team who, I mean, it was actually quite lovely. I started telling people immediately over that summer of 2024, WordCamp Europe. I'm like, I'm doing it, everybody. I'm bringing back Pressnomics at the time. I was saying that, and I was super excited. And so many people were just offering their help immediately. And so the team kind of organically grew that way, but it's small on purpose. Honestly, I say it's the best and it's the easiest because, I do make all the decisions. But when it comes to organizing, IMO, less is more. And the less is more model only works when everyone's utterly amazing at what they do. So like the team, like the speaker coordinator, now who is running the website, so there's Carol Stamba as my speaker coordinator. Adam Weeks is like sponsors media and like my right hand man. And Marcus Burnett now does the website. And I have a budget guy. His name's Nathan. He's been part of WordCamp Phoenix before. And then Brian Richards, big, huge help. And so I'm sure you could understand, but the efficiency and the way we get anything done is just that much more present and easy. So I love that model. Also, just in the decision making itself, Dan, you would know, I don't have to clear anything with anybody. It's like
one of the
one of the most craziest moments was like meeting the hotel, getting a tour, and like, oh, okay, what do you need? You just got to sign this contract and give us a very nominal deposit.
I
And
was
I'm
going
like,
to ask
that's
that.
it.
I was curious about that part of it. Like, is there like a business decision? Is there like a phase in this process where you have to like put down a big chunk of money to commit to this, or are you able to do this in stages to kind of de-risk the whole process? Like when you
Yeah.
book the hotel, the venue, are you able to like put a reasonable amount of money down?
Yeah. And the hotel's really reasonable because, they have their ways they make their money, So a lot of times hotels entice you by a very reasonable deposit and we'll give you the space for free. But that's because they've got room blocks that are guaranteed and an F&B minimum that is outrageous, And so that all comes post the event. So
FNB?
They make their money at the end. Food and beverage, sorry. Yeah. Food and beverage, which includes an automatic, this is America, 20% gratuity. And then on top of that, like taxes, even, because it's food. You're purchasing the food, even though it's service.
Same in Canada and
Yeah.
union scale,
Yeah. But to get the whole thing started a year ago, I mean, it was my money just up front, no anything. I don't mind saying it was just $5,000. I was like, here you go. It's $5,000. And we're having a conference. And that, honestly, that's what I was saying earlier. That blew my mind. It's like, that was so easy. Because that process, when you're going back and forth with like Automatic, who runs WordPress community support, it's, what do you think? Look it over. Then it's like making sure there's insurance, and it's back and forth. And it's like, they got to sign and the venue's got to sign. And you're over here just like trying to be the liaison between everything. And it was just like, sign this, pay this, and there you go. And I was like, I love this. I love this.
So I kind of get the vibe that when it comes to I was going to say market research, that's probably the wrong phrase. When it comes to knowing that you could get enough people in the room for this topic, that you'd been around the WordPress community enough to kind of have a gut feeling for that. I mean, how many people did you get in the end to attend, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I mean, and it's strategically less for sure. So 150 bought tickets for 2025.
So right at the beginning of the process, you kind of had a strong gut feeling that you could get 150 people to take a week of their lives, fly out to Arizona, and commit to what you were offering.
Yes, is the short answer. I mean, again, hearing a lot of the big names, the who's who, talk about how much they miss Pressnomics, how much they think we need a Business of WordPress conference. I just knew that the timing was ripe. We were like ready, and and it worked.
Well, ironically, we're talking on the same day that another big WordPress kind of independent conference is happening in London, right? It's the same. Today is LoopConf in London. So there seems like there's some demand for what you and for what the LoopConf team are offering.
Yeah. So Brian Richards runs, and he runs LoopConf. He bought the rights from Ryan Sullivan back in the day. And so that's like been fun. So when Brian and I first connected, he's like, I have the rights to LoopConf. And I was like, what? I was like, oh my gosh. So it just seemed like it wasn't just me, it just seemed like the timing was ripe all over the place. So they're very different, right? Like Pressnomics, now PressConf has always been very business focused, and LoopConf is developer focused. So, that is what it is. But I think also there's this desire to do events not under the Automatic umbrella. So that's also, I think, affecting the space right now.
With 150, 200, even 300 people, I think below 500, a lot of big sponsors look at that figure and then their ROI questions come on, like, does this really work for us? How do you deal with that when you're doing, intentionally a smaller conference. What do you pitch that? Like, what's the pitch there for your conference sponsors?
So the big sponsors just naturally are going to be hosting companies, and hosting companies desire access to agencies. And sure, some product companies as well. You can do some partnerships with product companies, but agencies especially. So when you sponsor a WordCamp, the more foot traffic, the better, because they're going to be going to their booth. PressConf doesn't really have booths. And this year for 2026, we're getting rid of booths altogether, and we're creating more of a sponsor experience. We're really excited about that. But the way that it's basically marketed is that you are now getting access to agencies for big deals, than not signups, if that makes sense. So that's the biggest desire there.
Can you talk to that a bit more? What is a sponsor experience going to look like?
That part, yeah. So we basically are making more like of a lounge for our sponsors. So, because that at PressConf, it feels like a big mastermind to a degree. You do tend to know a lot of the people, and if you don't know, you recognize a lot of the people, and that is the idea. The idea is that you now get to rub shoulders with, the big names in WordPress. So, they're not going up to booths and signing up for giveaways necessarily. It's just done a little bit differently. But what you are having is a lot of conversations. So the last year we did have some tables set up, but we just found that wasn't working. So now we're going to have, instead of a booth, we're going to have couches. So kind of similar to WordCamp US, or Europe, like there's this big sort of experience, and a lot of booths sponsors do have couches. Essentially, think of like a local camp, especially, and how they still have like their 8x8 backdrop behind them. But instead of a table with chairs, it'll be like a love seat, some other seats, a coffee table. So then that way now you can have conversations with the PressConf attendees and even like schedule those. So you could then have more relaxed business making, as opposed to standing on one side of the table and then someone's sitting right here,
In
That's the
terms of
idea.
in terms of the size, we had Brian Morrissey, who's like a fairly influential character in the publishing space these days, and he runs events which are probably like best characterized as dinners now. That he's selling exactly what you're selling. Basically, he gets, say, 10, 12 people sitting around a dinner table together, and strategically places sponsors next to key people in the market. Kind of what you're doing, but instead of 150, he's going down even to 10 or 15 people, because that kind of much more intimate access is what these people want, what they're willing to pay for.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I could see how that could work. I love bringing people together. And so the niche for me would be more of that like 200 world. So then that way in the evenings, those 15 to 20 top dinners can happen organically. And then the idea is to let everyone else figure that out. They know the meetings that they need to have. And, just like at a flagship event, only now it's more intimate and more, I guess, targeted. There's more, the meetings you would have at PressConf are going to be a little bit more bigger in sense of the types of deals that could be landed.
So, how smooth was the whole PressConf 2025 experience? Given you've done a whole bunch of events in the past, some that were great, some that were rocky. How did PressConf 2025 go? Was it on a scale of 1 to 10, say, how from disastrous to smooth sailing? How did it go?
Wow, it's hard to not say 10, but I don't.
Nice.
I have a hard time ever saying something's perfect. So I will say 8.5, 9. It really went exactly how it was supposed to go. And it kind of blew my mind. And sure, there was moments, right? Especially January when I quit my day job with Elegant Themes. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? And it just kept going. And, when you have so much experience, especially for the types of WordCamps we've organized, like the WordCamp Phoenix team, our events were like flagship level because coincidentally on the team, we had other people who had events experience. So we just put on such a great show. I mean, we've had our local camps at the Phoenix Convention Center, the exact same place WordCamp US is going to be over the next 2 years. So we've put on amazing events with amazing after parties. And so taking all that knowledge and bringing it in, to PressConf, a lot of it was second nature, and even the stressful times weren't that bad. And then I just remember Wednesday morning waking up when PressConf starts on a Wednesday, and waking up and it's just like, this is happening. And every step of the way, it happened how it was supposed to, pretty much. And then getting to the place, and I'm just like, it's so easy to set up and so chill. And then the event's happening and every day passes. And I'm like, how is this happening? How is this so easy? And everyone was so excited too. And part of that was just the state of WordPress, emotionally, especially with the past year and drama and things like that. And so this event was truly independent, and WP Engine was there, Automatic was there, and like we're all like living together harmoniously, and it just went so well. It went so well. And even the things that didn't go, like it just still ended up going really well. So
Well, I'm wishing you the same experience for WordCamp Canada, Dan.
Yeah.
So
It's kind
far?
of a different beast, different animal. Yeah. But one of the interesting things about PressConf, and I've only heard good things coming back, but it's kind of like what happened at PressConf stays at PressConf, and Chatham House rules, and there's sort of a sense of it was really awesome, but we don't have like visibility on it from the outside. Is that something you're sticking with? Is that kind of part of the special sauce? Keep it small and somewhat private, where people can have these a reduced public arena where you got the right people together. You can have those kind of almost dinner conversations, and it's not going on the internet later. It's not going to be picked over.
yeah, I mean, I feel like this past year, I think it got a little over-indexed more than it needed to be. Yes, to answer your question, the talks will stay unrecorded. And the reason why is because I want those speakers to get up there and just unleash. I want them to be raw and real, and I want them to feel safe, to feel that. And if anyone ever gets to know me, I'm like, let's get vulnerable, because that's how we bring change to ourselves. And the only way we change is because we want to. And I've been inspired to change by others. And so that's what I'm hoping for. So that unrecorded room, the entire intention is just to give a safe space for the speaker to feel like they can get up there and really let loose. Now, what can happen, and I want to happen, is I want people to talk about it. I want people to say what happened in the room. So you can't not, it's not that it can't be shared. It's just, things could be taken out of context, and, and recordings could just get kind of dangerous in that sense. And I want our speakers to feel safe. But we also have a rule that all things are fair game for recording and pictures, as long as there's no speaker at the podium. So basically, as soon as the speaker hits the podium and as soon as they leave the podium, it's fair game. You could take photos, you could do video. We had, some sponsor media sponsors there. We had Christian Taylor, Mark Zemansky, Ray from the repository, so there was a lot of access, and it's not that it's hush hush. It's just, I want to see us change. And I don't believe change comes from feeling good. I'm one of those firm believers it's redundant, but you change when you experience pain. That pain might be a slight annoyance, but it's still under the pain category, or it's big. And if we're just going to keep getting fluffed up and, like warm and squishy, which I do love that. We're just not going to feel it. We're not going to feel the need to change. And I think that we could do some changing in our community.
So kind of reading something into what you're saying there, you kind of got, when you decided to start PressConf, it sounds as if you had the feeling, the vibe, the WordPress was in a, maybe not a bad place, but maybe in some trouble in some senses, that there was disharmony, there was anger in the community, that WordPress needed an event that would bring people together.
So that was coincidence, technically. We announced, and I was working on PressConf since essentially April of 2024, and knew I was officially going to like start planning it in August of 2024. So then WordCamp US comes along.
This was several months before WordCamp US and all the trouble. Okay.
Yeah. But we officially launched and announced globally the site the Monday WordCamp US began in Portland in September last year. And then Friday was the keynote. So that was not planned. That was pure coincidence. But what did become clear to me and the team was we were going to be that safe space for everybody. And even when I saw, because what ended up happening, not by my part, but a lot of people were tweeting and sharing how, did anyone see that PressConf is happening? This is the anti-automatic event. We're so excited. And I'm over here like, no, it's not. What the hell? I never told anybody it was the anti-automatic event. And so I was like, I made it very clear to the whole team. I was like, this is very pro-automatic and this is pro-WP Engine and this is pro-everybody. Everybody's invited. In fact, we all need to be here. And the whole kind of, we do say be in the room where it happens, is because you actually get to be in there. And it was important for me to invite everybody, including, which I feel like has been ignored, is like page builders, the page building community. So in a way it did help because it really gave us a theme and a why for PressConf 2025, but it was not any reason as to why it did happen. That was pure coincidence.
It was just a bit more wind in the sails.
Sure, yeah. But it was you had to control that wind, for sure. It was like about to take me.
How did your international representation go with that? Was it largely U.S., some European? How about the Asian contingent? I know, Ray came up from Australia and probably had a couple of people from there. Was it fairly global, or how are you?
Yeah.
How's the draw?
We got also Rapid Cloud. They sponsored and their team came, a few of them, West Tatters, and they're Australia. We did try to get some APAC speakers and they fell through. They couldn't happen. Just logistics. And definitely got several Europeans that came. I would say maybe 15% of the attendees were maybe European just themselves. And there's some I'd never even met that I loved because that's, big deal. Like, and maybe they did come to WordCamp Europe. There's a high chance they did, but I never met them. So I was like, yes, I always love when people you don't know that well come to these smaller events because they recognize the value. But there wasn't really any South American representation. I was bummed about that. And there wasn't any African either. So, yeah.
Yeah, those are big groups. I'm always encouraged when we get a few, and we tended to in Canada. We've had a Brazilian regular, and Mary Jo is coming this year. A couple of people from Africa, but yeah, that's such our Southern Hemisphere community is big, and I'm always curious of what are the barriers or what gets them to big events. Visa issues are probably becoming a thing. I see that happening.
I'm not sure. And then, grade was a big part of it. And they're from Germany, and they've said they've traveled to the US 4 times this year and have had zero problems. Of course, we always know that there's, exceptions, but I think that, I don't even know, but I would say if anyone's curious about any of the events in the US or Canada, just give it a shot, because there's a good chance you'll be able to come, depending on the country you're from and all that.
Visa. We had some visa problems getting people to some of our team to WordCamp US this year, but honestly, it's been going on for years.
Yeah.
I remember like 10, 15 years ago, I was part of an open source group that had to move their conference to Cancun from the United States. They had to move it to Mexico because so many people were having problems getting in to the US even back then.
I feel that.
There's like a whole spectrum of ways in which you can finance one of these events. You've got something like what Dan is doing with WordCamp Canada, where the ticket price is pretty low, it's $100 or so, and the sponsors bear a lot of the costs. And that's basically the WordCamp US, WordCamp Europe model too, where the sponsors pay most of the freight. And then you've got some kind of private mastermind conferences where the ticket is $4,000, $5,000. They go to like an all expenses paid resort. There's a whole ton of ways in which you can make these events work, from leaning on the sponsors to getting the attendees to pay everything. Do you mind giving like a general overview of how PressConf works? How do you financially make it work? Is it a little bit of the tickets, a little bit of the sponsors? How do you make it all add up?
Yeah, I would say it's fairly close in balance. It's not 50-50, but it's fairly close. And I understand the model for WordCamps, and the more that time's gone on, I really do see the beauty of what a local camp actually is, and that it is kind of supposed to be ragtag and a little hackish, grassroots, and that it's for the user. And so these sponsors, the idea is that they're giving to the user to be able to come and not pay much, so I get that model. But I've had that organizer hat on for so long, and everything's got to grow and evolve to some degree, so now that normalizing a 3-day WordCamp at $100, even a 2-day, is to me like not outrageous. That's still dirt cheap. And if you ever do the math, I'm sure Dan knows this, like person paying $100 and they're getting lunch every day, they're getting an after party with drinks, they're getting swag. They're literally making a profit from that ticket price. The burden is still on the sponsors. For PressConf, it's really close to being neck and neck with that. There's really that model makes sense to me. The ticket price does need to be what it is, because it's not even, it's not about the money. It's about the content. It's about the people. And so all are welcome, but that monetary barrier to entry is you putting your money where your mouth is. And that might not be the best way to describe it, but if you see it's worth that, then the value of what you're getting into. And so that is like super important. And it's also why it's super important on my end to deliver and come with it with these speakers and the experience itself, So it's, and in that sense, this isn't about the user. Oh, this is for all of us. Like the attendees tend to be definitely agency owners, the product developers, even freelancers for sure. But they're all there because they know big things can happen. So that slightly elevated price, not 4,000, but yeah, not 100, is that insurance that they know it's going to be worth it. I remember Mark Westgard told me that. He literally I didn't say much. He's like, no, I know. He's like, I know what that means. I know that this is going to be worth it. I was like, Mark, can you tell everybody? Because you get it.
Hey, are there other ways in which you can get some revenue from the event? Is it possible to get an agreement with the hotel to take a cut of any rooms that are sold, or is that it? Is it basically down to event tickets and sponsorships, or does an event like yours have other revenue sources available you could tap?
Man, no.
Okay. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be shocked if I found a hotel that was like, here, we'll give you a cut of like room blocks. I'd be highly curious if anyone's done that.
Hey, Dan, how does that compare to WordCamp Canada? How does your budget fall between the sponsorships and the tickets?
The tickets do make a sizable and important contribution there. And this time, since we're intentionally trying to keep a really lean budget, it sort of expands as the sponsors come in. So we want to be able to do more as we get more commitments from sponsors.
So lunch kind of starts with a sandwich, and the more sponsors you get, you like add.
Right.
The lunch grows, and the benefits of the
and the
conference grows.
After party, speaker sponsor dinner, ability to do other little nice touches here and there. Right. All of that can get better with more in, but there's sort of an MVP underneath it where there's, the minimum we need to deliver has already been sort of priced. And we know we can do that with the basic budget we start with. And we're volunteer driven. So there's a lot of that labor goes in for free and into the mix and is really key.
So do you mind if I flip that question, Raquel? We've got the revenue for the event is 50% tickets, 50% the sponsors. What about the costs? Where does the money go when you're running an event of that size?
Yeah, it's definitely, the costs are going to be up there big time. Like I said, like food and beverage minimum is going to be tens of thousands of dollars for sure. We're not big on swag because it's, tchotchkes are just silly, but we like to give one big intentional gift to every attendee. And that cost is like,
that might be like part of an indicator of holding a more premium conference, that you're not giving away key rings and junk that people are going to throw away.
Yeah, no, exactly. That like at a WordCamp, when you're looking at like swag, you're looking at like sub $10, maybe even sub $5 per, like item, where now every attendee is getting something nice and something that's sustainable and that you're going to want to use.
What did you
we
give
don't
them at
have
PressConf?
volunteers.
What did you give them last year?
A succulents.
Nice.
I need to now plant mine in a bigger planter. But yeah, they were branded with our logo, and I was so happy because it's sustainable. It makes you feel good. Like plants, they just do something for you. But yeah, we also don't do volunteers. One, the event is so even like this year, we're gonna go up to 200 this year, because of the efficiency of the team, and also just those who come. They're this decision makers of their companies, of their whatever, freelancing even, and you don't really have to do all the volunteer stuff. I mean, registration this year was like literally the team knowing exactly who the person was and just going up and being, here's your lanyard and your badge. It was, so we don't really do volunteers. A little bit, like everybody wants a photographer, got to have some of that. And the team does get compensated. They get like more like a barter for their time. So, and I'm pretty careful to make sure that they don't overdo it. Like I'm like, hey, don't do more than you need to do.
It's a business conference. You run it like a business from start to finish.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So it was obviously successful enough as a business that you're going to do it again next year?
Yes.
It's already on the books for 2026?
Yep. Already selling tickets. In fact, we've been selling since a month ago. Yeah. And then early bird, we call them startup. I'm an overgrown child, so everything's got a theme to some degree. So our early bird tickets are our startup tickets, and that ends on the 30th. and then it goes into normal pricing. But yeah, we are already going for it. I'm ecstatic. We're in the middle of choosing speakers and getting sponsors locked in. So it's happening again.
Is there a path forward for PressConf to add on, to expand a little? Could you add a European event, for example?
Yeah, that's the plan, actually. In maybe 2027, looking at adding. I've been saying this, and I've been disclaiming no promises, but it makes sense to do a European PressConf hopefully in 2027.
I'm curious. So I kind of think of PressConf as being maybe even more inside baseball, kind of the inside crowd, and people who've been in the business of WordPress for a long time. Do you attract kind of new people that sort of fit that niche, or are interested in exploring it, or just what kind of openings are there for like new blood, fresh ideas, maybe even people who aren't, Drupal people, someone in an adjacent type of project, or even on the sponsor level? Is there kind of an inflow that you think about intentionally of where do we get new ideas, new sources of funding, new energy, younger people, even kind of greater diversity all around? How does that go?
Yes. This last iteration, we really focused on WordPress big time, just because of the state of WordPress, and every single speaker was pretty known in the WordPress space, and that was on purpose. It is the resurrection of the beloved conference of the yesteryears, and there had to be ticket seller speakers. So that was the biggest thing. This year, that's definitely been a big thought, is okay, now let's go further. This is not necessarily exclusively for WordPress. Yes, it is a WordPress business conference, but I would love to expand it to more open source business. But that's just the beginning. That's just a thought. So one way to look at it is by inviting speakers outside of WordPress. So that's something that we're looking at this year. And that being said, those types of speakers could potentially attract other outside sponsors. Part of your other question was the attendees. So yeah, there's definitely some attendees that I do not see at WordCamps, and they don't feel like WordCamps are worth their time for whatever reason. And so for them, as soon as they saw PressConf pop up, they're like, oh, this is where I want to be. And I had not met them before. There's some I never even heard of. Some of them I've heard of, but I just never met them. So again, there definitely was some this past year. So we're hoping that there's a lot more in that sense. I will say I've noticed on a DEI level, it's harder. It is harder. And I'm over here not white and I'm leading this entire endeavor, and I'm a woman on top of that. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is definitely a lot harder to for all of it, to source the speakers and sponsors and attendees. And so that's something that's near and dear to my heart that I'm also trying to help with. The fact that I'm the one who's running it is definitely on that path toward helping more DEI get represented. But I can't do it just on me alone. So yeah, that's a lot of these are, Dan, what you're asking, a lot of these are in my head already. And now it's kind of that we just got to take steps and see what works. But I don't have an exact plan or process that is oh, we figured it out. I really don't. I just am sitting with it and wanting it is where I'm at.
So from the sounds of it, PressConf could be, depending on who attends, and depending on 101 different things, but PressConf could be, well, last year's PressConf could be a starting point for something that could grow, expand, develop. Your friend who initially helped inspire this mentioned CloudFest as an idea. CloudFest obviously is a massive conference that covers a lot of the open source ecosystem, but it could be a model for you to follow. You could add other open source elements. You could be a place for business people from different environments to get together.
Yeah, that's something we're thinking about. So my company, Wonderland Curious, is it's the owner of PressConf, essentially. And PressConf obviously kickstarted my entire company. But there's other services my company offers. And so I do think about that. I do think about like having a European, contingent of PressConf and maybe even Asia in the future. I've thought about those things. But I also have other ideas up my sleeve, as well that are not PressConf. They're something else. And so I'm in the stage right now where the event space is moving. It's moving and it hasn't been. And I've been looking at it like, the whole analogy of blue water, not red water. And I got to the blue water post-pandemic when WordPress is struggling to get events out. And I drew first blood and ate well. And that you could smell that blood. So like the others are coming. And I will say this, I've definitely seen what I consider to be dollar signs just flashing from some other characters. And I mean characters in our world, like, I'm not trying to be derogatory by saying that. And I'm like, let them, because for me, this is my passion. And I love bringing people together. And if money is the bottom line, I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to compete with why I do this. So that being said, there is so much movement right now toward in-person events, and I'm glad because we need it, especially with AI. But it's taken some real, I always joke and I say strategery because it's just funny, but it's taken some real strategery to hone it all in, to keep PressConf what it is and see how that's going to change. I don't ever want it to be like CloudFest, because CloudFest is like this festival, it's like huge. I don't want that. The point of PressConf is to be intimate and powerful, not in numbers, but in clout, essentially. But there's so much that Wonderland Curious can also do for WordPress, for other industries as well. And so that's where I'm trying to find the balance, where PressConf is going to probably stay PressConf, but still have room for evolving. And Wonderland Curious now will come in and do some other things. As it is, I already do side parties for other conferences or group travel. That's something that my company does. And that's just for fun, taking a group of 20 randos to Cancun or something like that. So yeah, there's other things.
Events, particularly of the smaller size, almost inextricably linked with the person that's hosting them, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you mention Pressnomics, you talk about the hosts. And I think even perhaps when you talk about a major WordCamp like US, like if Matt wasn't turning up and either for good or bad wasn't doing his state of the word, I think a lot less people would go. LoopConf, very much wrapped up in Brian's personality. So much of the value of these smaller events is with the host, right? That you are the hosts, often the MC too. It's a difficult space to compete in if you're going to do it in a very corporate and bland way. It needs I'm trying to think of the right word, not influencer, maybe host. You need an energetic, connected, warm host, right? To make the event work.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of that. It's hard because it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to say people came because of me, but at the same time, I think some people did come because of me. And it's not that it's like they could see me. I go to a lot of events, but I think they trusted me. They trusted my purpose and my why. A lot of people know me. They know I'm a giver and I give more than I take. And that shows. And who wouldn't want to go to an event like that? I personally would, and there's some people out there that are I could tell they're hinting that they've got something up their sleeve and I'm sus. not because I don't want to support them, but I'm like, I don't want to be exploited, and I'm in the trust economy, and I'm over here like we're going to get better because we're going to trust each other. And somebody who like builds their platform on trust, like it's really hard to not gain from those experiences. And if you're going to a place where it's not based on trust, then I'm going to be highly skeptical.
Have you been following Rodolfo, who has been very heavily involved in WooCommerce for years, and he's been organizing an event in Italy?
Yeah, I've seen that, and I know we just actually talked about we should talk. Yeah, because he's doing that WooCommerce event, and I'm excited for him. But we don't otherwise know each other.
I don't know what the event equivalent of that build in public hashtag is. Maybe build in public applies to events too, but he's, I think, gaining an enormous amount of trust from people, not just because of his connection to WooCommerce over the years, but if following Rodolfo on social media, he's very honest about the ups and the downs and the challenges and the roller coaster ride involved in organizing an event like this. Like, I think he is engendering a huge amount of trust from the way he's going about organizing his WooCommerce event in Italy.
Yeah, you'd mentioned that, and I have empathy, and I think this is where I'm super grateful for all the years I was in the trenches with WordCamps, and not only Phoenix but US, and then I've volunteered for multiple other WordCamps across the globe as well, and so you get to know what it's like to feel the stress, ahead of time. And I don't know, maybe Rodolfo has other experience. And I will say that I'm one of those weirdies where I like it, that sort of stress. It's like a fuel to my fire. And so when I know that there's some sort of problem to solve for an event, I'm like this giddy girl who gets to solve a problem. But if I need to do any sort of things that don't result in an event, like documentation, anything to do with sites, even in our world, I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I'll be stressing and fretting about it. And I'm just doing the thing where I'm ignoring it till the problem keeps growing and growing and growing, So the event part is like, I'm just so grateful because that's really where my gift is. So when I hear of someone, I was like, oh no, hopefully they get through it. Cause once you feel it, but some people, that is the thing is it's, that's why a lot of WordCamp organizers burn out after even the first event. Like, Dan, it sounds like Canada doesn't even have any of the original organizers from last year to this year.
Miriam Goldman is back with us, doing a really key role. Yeah, it was a pretty high turnover, but they handed off a lot of good information and kind of some play a mentor role or do things in the background. But yeah, needed to take a break after. I think the way those work, when you have teams and volunteers, it makes a lot of sense to kind of have there's almost a natural transition as you get close to the event. There's a whole different set of people that come on board for the volunteers who like the day of physical reality. And then all the stuff you're doing way in advance is more of the planning and strategic and marketing. And it's a little slower. There's a total tempo change as you get closer. And it's really a good thing to change horses then. And then it seemed like that's when people kind of come back. They're like, oh, I stepped back, but now I can come in for this. But you're biting off little pieces. So that's the continuity thing is a real issue, though. If you really want to keep it going year by year and move around to different cities for a bigger event, the knowledge transfer and the people who have to have these relationships, that whole network needs to be built and sustained. And I see that as a challenge that's a good one to have and a kind of a cool thing to work on.
So you're planning to add the extra complexity to WordCamp Canada next year and move from Ottawa?
Well, yeah, it's been there twice. Because Ottawa is one of the communities that has had an active meetup a long time. And put on WordCamps previously just as WordCamp Ottawa. So there was a ready, healthy group there, venues that are well known, that easy to slip back into. And that's why we stuck with it 2 years in a row. But we really need, if we're going to keep it WordCamp Canada, we need to move it around the country and, get people in Montreal and Vancouver engaged, places that, we can draw folks to. But it's a big, long, wide, but relatively smaller population than the US. So it's got its own tough logistics to get people out. More regional, really, at when it comes down to it.
So Raquel, you are doing my math, 7-8 months away now from PressConf next year.
Yeah, I guess
It
so.
can
Huh?
be in September now. We're looking at April for next year's event. Do you have anything on the radar? Anything like new, different that you can tease? Why should people put PressConf 2026 on their radar for next year?
I mean, as of now, it's still the only Business of WordPress conference that exists, in person, and that in itself is a huge sell. I'm very grateful because people do show up for it. So if this is a selling point, but I don't even have to sell it because it is what it is. The people who go are the people you want to know when it comes to business. And that is the point, like, I love humans very much, and I want to get to know all the humans as much as possible. But at the end of the day, people, are trying to grow their businesses. And so that's the beauty of it. So again, we're not going to take away from the fact that the bottom line of business is to increase revenue. And so this conference gives you opportunity to either sign on the dotted line with the company or a potential partnership, or even just get the seed planted from what can happen in the future. So many of the businesses today, the big ones, the Awesomotives, web dev studios, even Human Made, have been a part of Pressnomics from the 2012 to the 2019 years. So it's like, this is the testament to what it can provide. That, I think, is a huge selling point. And you get to be around an economy that is built on trust as well as revenue. So, yeah.
Well, you talk about it as if it's kind of almost like the 10-year anniversary, that you've taken the original thread of Pressnomics, the original spirit, and this is something almost that people have been coming to time and time again over the course of, with a few gaps, of course, over the course of 10 plus years now. And 2026 will be just another milestone in that. People who went to the original Pressnomics might be coming back to this again 10 plus years later.
Yeah. I mean, as it is already, there's some attendees that didn't come last year, but they were part of Pressnomics in the past. So I'm really excited. When we announced last year, and then when shit hit the fan with the community, I think a lot of people got scared and didn't know what to expect. And so now that they see that it was successful, I believe that's why we're now seeing ticket sales increase and attracting some of those Pressnomics alums. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess the original problem that both you guys were setting out to solve was that in-person events, that WordPress community networking was struggling. And Dan, you put in all the effort to get WordCamp Canada working again, and Raquel with WordCamp Arizona, and now PressConf. I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing. Dan, we're 3 weeks away from WordCamp Canada as we're talking.
Right.
How you feeling?
Yeah, it's been a pretty good experience with just all the different contributions that people make and bring, and then once you get the speakers lined up, they become part of it, and sponsors too. It's a group contribution driven event where you just know, okay, we're going to get all these people together and some cool things are going to happen that are unpredictable beyond what we've scheduled, or in a university context, or we can kind of open up students from the J School, the student journalists, and AI and comp sci people, and just kind of let magic happen. The momentum is really, really nice to see that all build and come together, and it really depends on everyone bringing something to it. That's the fun of it.
Awesome. Well, we should do a WordCamp Canada recap episode when the event is gone. And Raquel, it's been great to hear your story of PressConf. Where can people keep in touch with you and hear updates for the conference next year?
You could go to PressConf and all the socials. It's pretty much PressConf, maybe an underscore in there. But I'm almost everywhere. Raquel Karina, same thing, maybe an underscore in between at times. And I'm on every platform there is pretty much, and open, willing to talk. Any questions anybody might have. I've got a lot of energy, so don't feel like you're bugging me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Raquel, and I wish both of you guys all the best with your events.
Thanks.
Thanks.